A 5-year-old girl was imprisoned, and by the time she was released at 18, her family was gone. The only thing her father left behind was an old wooden box. Inside, she found a $50 million check, 49% of a publicly traded company's shares, and a handwritten letter from her father. In the letter, he revealed the truth about how their family had been betrayed, along with a photo of him and a group of people. He wrote that those people were the ones responsible for their downfall, but despite everything, he hoped his daughter could forgive them and live a normal life. But the girl stared at their faces in the photo and swore vengeance. She changed her name to Emily and rented the same beachfront villa filled with childhood memories, right in the heart of an elite neighborhood. The villa's current owner, Lydia, was one of the people who had ruined her father. Emily secretly followed Lydia to a hotel, where she unexpectedly saw Conrad Grayson arriving as well. That sparked an idea. She disguised herself as a waitress, slipped into their room, and while they were distracted, added something to Conrad's soup. Moments later, he collapsed from a heart attack. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital, while Lydia stood frozen in fear at the door. From a distance, Emily watched calmly before approaching and saying, "Oh my God, is that your husband? Do you need any help?" Startled and guilty, Lydia turned and ran off into the crowd. When Victoria, Conrad's wife, arrived at the hospital, she learned that her husband had only suffered mild food poisoning. She clearly remembered he had told her he was going golfing, yet he was now wearing hotel pajamas. The truth hit her immediately. She grabbed him and hissed, "Don't you ever do that again." Later, at a charity auction, Emily managed to enter the event with a friend's help and intentionally approached Victoria. Victoria proudly introduced her best friend, Lydia. Emily smiled and said, "We actually met yesterday at the hotel. I hope your husband's feeling better." Victoria instantly caught the tension on Lydia's face and realized what had happened. Furious, she returned the expensive painting Lydia had given her and ordered security to escort her off the yacht. From that moment, their decade-long friendship was over. Emily's next target was Daniel, Victoria's only son. According to the old trial footage, it was Victoria, the woman her father loved most, who first testified against him. But Emily didn't know that someone had already uncovered her true identity. That night, a man snuck into her house, and she immediately attacked. Only when he said, "My name is Nolan," did she pause, remembering the skinny man who had picked her up the day she got out of prison. Emily demanded, "Nolan, what do you want?" "I want to help you." "You can't help me with this," Nolan warned. "If you refuse my help, I can become a far greater enemy than any of them." To get closer to Daniel, Emily went to watch him play polo. At the match hosted by Victoria, she met Bill, her late father's best friend. After more than a decade, he didn't recognize her. Emily took the chance to strike up a conversation, and Bill gladly invited her to dinner the next day. As he left, Emily quietly noted his name. He was one of those who betrayed her father. Once, her father and Bill were like brothers, but when it mattered most, Bill turned against him. No wonder her father died filled with regret. The next day, Emily visited Bill's company, posing as an investor to gain his trust. Knowing she was wealthy, Bill, thanks to Victoria's gossip, boasted about his firm's profits, trying to lure her into investing, but Emily remained cautious and declined. Just then, she learned that her beachfront villa had been bought out. Suspecting who was behind it, Emily confronted Nolan in his car. After a brief exchange, he admitted he had bought the house and transferred it to her name, to help her seek revenge. That explanation only deepened Emily's curiosity about Nolan's true motives. Just then, a Ferrari pulled up on the roadside. Emily quickly turned and hugged Nolan. The man stepping out of the car was Bill. He glanced at them briefly, then walked straight into the restaurant. Inside, Bill casually questioned Emily about her relationship with Nolan, knowing Nolan was a major figure in the investment world. Emily smoothly changed the topic, asking Bill to help her buy Allcom cellular stocks. She claimed she'd received insider information that the stock was about to skyrocket. Bill half believed her but decided to keep it in mind. The next day, the media exploded with news. Nolan's global group had announced a partnership with Allcom Cellular. The stock price instantly shot through the roof. Emily immediately called Bill, urging him to invest all her money in Allcom, no matter how much. At first, Bill hesitated, but seeing Nolan's name tied to the deal and the media hype, he believed this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He mobilized all of his company's investment funds. "Everyone, start buying Allcom stocks. Buy everything that's on sale. As much as possible, right now." While Bill was fantasizing about becoming rich overnight, a shocking video from Nolan himself appeared online. In it, Nolan declared that the partnership rumor was false, a misunderstanding caused by an internal leak. Almost instantly, Allcom Cellular shares plummeted. Within moments, Bill's entire investment portfolio was wiped out. Panicking, he barked orders at his staff. "If you value your job, keep your mouth shut. Tell our investors it's a beautiful sunny day. If word gets out, we're all finished." But Bill didn't know that Emily was at home with the company's investor list, personally calling each one to reveal the truth. Before long, Bill was arrested, facing years behind bars. Meanwhile, Victoria had received Emily's background report from a private investigator. Seeing the young woman's vast fortune, Victoria sensed Emily wasn't as simple as she appeared. To uncover her true motives, Victoria invited her to the mansion for a private conversation. The next day, Victoria welcomed Emily into her home. But before they could talk much, Conrad arrived with Senator Kingsley in tow. The moment Emily saw him, she recognized him, the prosecutor who had mercilessly convicted her father years ago. That case had made Kingsley a public hero and launched his political career. Now he was here for his election campaign, though Victoria clearly despised him. As everyone discussed the upcoming campaign, Kingsley announced he'd deliver his speech at that evening's fundraiser. Just then, his assistant handed him a tablet, showing a video of Kingsley entering an unfamiliar building. His face drained of color, he abruptly ended the meeting. Sensing something was wrong, Conrad pressed for answers. Kingsley stammered, "It's nothing." Moments later, a second video arrived, a private video of Kingsley himself. This time, the situation was dire. Conrad demanded an explanation, and Kingsley had no choice but to confess. The footage showed him with his ex-girlfriend, someone he swore had agreed to keep their past secret. He didn't believe she leaked it, but whoever did could destroy his entire career. As panic spread, the campaign fundraiser outside had already begun. Kingsley straightened his tie, forced a smile, and stepped onto the stage, but after his opening line, he froze, face pale, eyes wide. Someone had tampered with his speech. The teleprompter now read, "Find the girl in the red dress, Happy Father's Day." At that moment, a pregnant woman in a red dress appeared at the event, standing silently, gazing at Kingsley with tender eyes. His assistant spotted her and immediately signaled security to escort her out, knowing the damage was already done. On stage, Senator Kingsley's speech came to an abrupt halt. The situation was beyond repair, and the most critical thing was that the content of his speech could never be made public. With no other choice, Kingsley stepped up to the microphone and announced, "I am withdrawing from this election and will not seek re-election." Backstage, his assistant informed him that the reason his ex-girlfriend showed up was because he had invited her. Kingsley snapped, "That's impossible." But the assistant insisted. "She said you've been texting and emailing her for months, sending money for the baby, even promising to leave your wife. She'd even come wearing the red dress and used the plane ticket he supposedly sent her." Kingsley was speechless. No matter what, his political career was now over. Back at Emily's house, Nolan was waiting for her with a big grin. It turned out the entire scandal had been orchestrated by the two of them. Nolan had hacked into Kingsley's computer, and Emily had planted the compromising video on his tablet. As for the video itself, Emily admitted, "I bought the entire building where that woman lived just to get it. Then I sent the scandal video to every media outlet. I wanted to destroy his life, to take away everything he had." Nolan's smile faded, a chill ran down his spine. This woman's ruthlessness was terrifying. Meanwhile, Conrad's assistant brought him a new report. Though they still hadn't traced the sender, the emails to the woman had come directly from Conrad's own computer. Conrad froze. It wasn't him, so who was behind it? The next day, Emily went to meet a friend as usual and overheard that Victoria was hosting a private tea session with a guest speaker, a renowned psychologist who happened to be the same woman who had held Emily captive for over 10 years. Without hesitation, Emily signed up. Victoria was puzzled. Why would Emily attend such an event? Soon, the private tea gathering began. Most guests were former patients of the doctor, who planned to showcase her latest charitable achievements. But something went terribly wrong. The presentation video was replaced. Instead of her charity work, it showed recordings of patients' therapy sessions, including their most private confessions and secrets. Every hidden truth was now exposed to the world. Among the clips was Victoria's own confession. "Sometimes I wonder if having a daughter was a mistake." Her daughter, standing right beside her, broke down in tears. Enraged, Victoria pointed at the doctor and shouted, "I'll destroy you, I'll ruin your life." Later, back home, Victoria called her assistant Frank and ordered him to take care of the doctor, permanently if necessary. The woman knew too much, especially secrets buried for over a decade. Meanwhile, Emily returned home to find Nolan waiting again, applauding her cunning. It turned out she had orchestrated the entire plan from the start. For over a year, Emily had posed as a patient at the doctor's clinic, discovering that the woman recorded every therapy session and hid cameras in her office. Emily used her tech skills to copy all the footage, and when she learned the doctor would attend Victoria's tea party, she had her friend, the event organizer, swap the presentation disc. To avoid suspicion, she began the video with her own therapy session, then uploaded all the other recordings to a secret website. Nolan confronted her. "You hurt innocent people just to get back at Victoria." But he didn't know Emily only intended to target the doctor. She still didn't realize that the real mastermind behind her 13-year imprisonment was Victoria herself. A buried memory resurfaced, Victoria's voice saying, "I'll open a private clinic for you, with stable clients. But in return, that little girl must receive special care." At that same moment, Victoria was trying to uncover who had sabotaged her event, when suddenly, the police knocked on her door. At first, she thought something had happened to her daughter. But the police informed Victoria that the psychologist had been kidnapped. Her clinic was ransacked, her computer hard drives stolen, and several witnesses claimed they had heard Victoria threaten her life. Victoria defended herself, insisting she'd only spoken in anger, and that she had an alibi. The next day, the news announced a reward for information about the kidnapping. Investigators believed the case might be connected to the mysterious website that had leaked therapy videos earlier, possibly the work of the same group. When Nolan and Emily heard this, they exchanged glances. "It wasn't us," they said, "we didn't do this." Meanwhile, at an abandoned warehouse, a woman's frantic screams echoed. "Is anyone out there? Please let me out, we can talk." It was the psychologist. A day later, headlines broke, she'd been rescued, thanks to an anonymous tip. But as Victoria watched the news, her face turned pale, not because the doctor knew too much, but because the warehouse was found to be owned by her family. To divert public attention, Victoria decided to host a charity gala, inviting the victims from Emily's father's old case, the one where he had been accused of treason, leading to a devastating plane crash. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily pulled some strings and got herself an invitation. As she prepared to leave, Lydia suddenly showed up at her door, demanding to take back her old house. Emily coldly refused. Lydia's eyes narrowed. "We all have our secrets, Emily. And I'll find out yours." That evening, Lydia attended Victoria's private party, pretending to apologize and seek forgiveness. But Victoria couldn't forgive the woman who had betrayed her. Emily approached and said calmly, "You're not getting the house back, I've already packed all your belongings and sent them to you." Lydia, defeated, stormed out. The next day, Victoria discovered her husband Conrad had transferred $10 million to Lydia. Furious, she confronted him. "What the hell are you doing? Why give her that money?" Conrad replied evenly, "To protect you. Lydia knows everything about the plane crash 15 years ago and every secret that followed. We're lucky she hasn't exposed us yet. 10 million is the price of peace." Victoria fell silent, though unease filled her eyes. That night, Conrad went to Lydia's home, angry and on edge. "Why did you go to my house and stir things up?" he demanded. Lydia said she only wanted to reconcile with Victoria and rejoin the upper-class circle. Then she issued a cold warning. "If you don't meet my demands, tomorrow night at the gala, I'll expose who you and your wife really are." Conrad snapped, grabbed a photo of Lydia and Victoria, and hurled it to the floor before storming off. Lydia calmly picked up the photo, but suddenly froze. She pulled out a magnifying glass and inspected it closely, noticing the waitress in the background looked exactly like Emily. A sly smile spread across her face. But she didn't know that Nolan had recorded everything through a hidden camera on the shelf. The next day, Nolan went straight to Emily. He told her that Lydia had recognized her in the photo and even obtained the employee list from that event. Emily didn't panic. Instead, she asked coldly, "How do you know that?" Nolan hesitated, then confessed. "I secretly placed a camera in your house, but somehow, yesterday, it ended up at Lydia's place." Emily immediately realized what happened. The camera must have been packed with the old items she'd sent Lydia. Now, she had to retrieve that photo at all costs. She told Nolan to hack into the catering company's database and erase her name from the employee list. Years ago, just after getting out of prison, she had disguised herself as a waitress under her real name, just to see the faces of those who destroyed her family. If Lydia found out now, Emily's entire plan for revenge would collapse. At this point, Conrad met with Victoria and her assistant Frank. "I tried talking to her," he said. "This time, Lydia doesn't want money. The only thing she wants is for Victoria to accept her again." Victoria frowned. She was a patient of that psychologist too, and her video was the only one that didn't leak. Maybe she's the real culprit behind the kidnapping. She immediately sent Frank to Lydia's house to search for evidence, hoping to strike first. Meanwhile, she stayed at the charity event to keep Lydia under control. The gala began. Lydia arrived as a special guest, glamorous and confident. She leaned close to Emily and whispered, "I know your secret." After Lydia left, Emily quickly called Nolan. He told her that the only remaining copy of the employee list from that event was kept at Lydia's home. Emily planned to retrieve it herself, but Daniel, Victoria's son, and the most crucial piece in her revenge plan, showed up unexpectedly. Left with no choice, she sent Nolan to get it instead. Meanwhile, Lydia stepped onto the stage for her speech. Down below, Victoria and Conrad sat frozen with tension, eyes locked on her as if she were the devil herself. But to their surprise, Lydia didn't expose them. Instead, she praised their achievements publicly. After the gala, Lydia approached Victoria, hoping her gesture of goodwill would soften her old friend's heart. But Victoria only insulted and mocked her in return. Lydia left in tears. That night, Nolan sneaked into Lydia's house. It was dark and silent. He quickly located the employee list, the photo, and recovered the hidden camera. Just as he was leaving, the alarm blared. Panicked, he climbed to the roof to check, only to see Lydia's lifeless body sprawled across a taxi below, blood everywhere. Terrified, he fled. Back home, Nolan connected the security footage to his laptop. What he saw made his jaw drop. The next morning, he rushed to Emily's house. When she saw the video, she was just as stunned. The footage showed Frank, Victoria's assistant, breaking into Lydia's home, rummaging through her things. He found a CD from the Tea Party, the one that had been swapped, along with a newspaper about Senator Kingsley's withdrawal from the election. Convinced by the evidence, Frank assumed Lydia was the mastermind behind the kidnapping. Worse still, her computer contained a speech exposing all of Victoria and Conrad's past crimes. Alarmed, Frank reported everything to Victoria. She ordered, "Bring me all the evidence, now." Moments later, Lydia came home. Before she could react, Frank attacked. She screamed, fought back desperately, but he was far stronger. Lydia ran upstairs, crying for help, and then everything ended exactly as we saw. Once the threat was gone, Frank exhaled in relief and left a message for Victoria. Lydia killed herself. After watching the footage, Nolan said, "We should take this to the police." But Emily shook her head. "That won't help us. Right now, Victoria believes Lydia was behind everything. That works in our favor. But to finish this revenge plan, we need Frank out of the picture. This video will make that happen." The next day, while Conrad was watching the news about Lydia, he received an anonymous email containing the video of her murder. He was horrified. To protect himself, Conrad immediately met with Frank, handed him a large check, and arranged a private jet for him to leave the city. But Frank exploded. "I've served this family for nearly 20 years, and now you're throwing me away with a check. Without me, you'd have nothing you have today." He stormed out in anger. Later, Conrad returned home to find Victoria still discussing Frank. He silently played the murder footage for her. Victoria froze, trembling with fear, unable to believe how ruthless Frank had become. That night, as Victoria was preparing for bed, Frank suddenly broke into her house. Under his menacing pressure, she grew terrified, stepping back as she told him about the surveillance video. Fortunately, Conrad's voice calling from upstairs gave her the chance to escape. Realizing the video existed, Frank headed straight to Lydia's apartment, bribing the building's security guard to let him in. But the guard refused. The apartment had been sealed off by police. Frank then noticed the security cameras and managed to extract footage from the night of the incident. What he saw made his stomach drop. After he left, only Nolan had entered the apartment. At last, he understood where the footage of Lydia's death had come from. Meanwhile, Nolan was at Victoria's Independence Day gala, enjoying wine and food. Suddenly, a gun pressed against his back. He turned. It was Frank. Frank dragged him into a private room, punched him hard, and pointed the gun at his head. "Who told you to do it?" "Conrad never ordered me to do that." Before Frank could react, voices echoed from outside. Panicked, he fled. Moments later, Emily entered the room. Nolan rushed to her and whispered, "Frank's here." "What?" "He knows I installed the cameras." They didn't realize that Frank hadn't left. He was watching them from the shadows. And now, he finally understood. Conrad wasn't the one after him. It was Emily. The next day, Frank broke into Emily's home, searching for answers. As soon as she returned, he confronted her. "Who are you? Too many strange things have happened since you came here. Why did you hide your time in juvenile detention? I'll find out the truth, piece by piece." Emily didn't call the police. Instead, she quietly lifted a rug, retrieved a hidden phone from a wooden box beneath the floor, and made a mysterious call. After hearing the reply, she finally relaxed. Meanwhile, Frank went to the prison where Emily had once served her sentence. Using his ex-cop credentials, he asked the warden for her file. But the warden refused. A court order was required. After Frank left, the warden made a call. Frank was just here. On the other end of the line was Emily. The warden warned, "Frank's dangerous, be careful." But Frank was already one step ahead. That night, he broke into the warden's office and found Emily's file. To his shock, the photo inside belonged to a completely different woman. He took a picture of the document. Following the address listed, Frank tracked down a bar, where he spotted the same woman from the photo dancing on stage. He paid extra to have her brought to a private room. "Are you Emily?" "My name's Amanda." But Frank saw through her hesitation. He leaned in, eyes sharp. "You're the real Emily and the other one is Amanda." The woman froze. He was right. She finally admitted, "Yes, I'm Emily." Then asked, "Do you know where Amanda is?" Frank pulled out a photo of Amanda with Daniel, saying, "She's doing fine, dating the son of a billionaire." Intrigued, the woman said she wanted to go somewhere private and tell him everything. Frank was thrilled. He thought the truth was finally within reach. He immediately called Victoria, saying, "Victoria, you were right. Emily isn't who she says she is. But the call abruptly cut off. When Victoria tried to call back, Frank was no longer reachable. At the same time, Lydia, the woman who had fallen from the 5th floor, woke up from her coma. She was alive. And elsewhere, the woman Frank had found, the real Amanda, arrived at Emily's house. Seeing each other, the two women froze in shock before embracing tightly. A man named Frank, he found out about our identity swap. After hearing everything, Emily hid the woman at Nolan's place. Curious, Nolan asked questions, but Emily warned. The less you know, the better. And don't let her out of your sight. He held his tongue, but soon noticed bloodstains on the woman's coat. That night, Nolan learned that Frank, Victoria's aide, had died unexpectedly. His mind went straight to the mysterious woman. She denied it, until Nolan presented blood test results from her coat and Frank's wallet. She had no defense left. Facing Emily, Nolan finally heard the truth. After Frank uncovered the identity swap, he called Victoria to report. To protect Emily, the woman attacked, killed Frank, and dumped the body in roadside brush. Nolan felt he'd backed the wrong side. Unfazed, Emily produced Frank's phone and told Nolan to dispose of it immediately, or he'd be implicated too. Then she handed over plane tickets. The woman would fly to France the next day. From now on, she is Amanda, and Emily remains Emily. Meanwhile, Lydia recovered at Victoria's home. Though partly amnesiac, she remembered a photo with Emily and told Victoria. There's a photo. Of who? Us, at the 2003 New Year's party. Emily was there. Victoria found the photo, only to see it wasn't Emily. Shaken, Lydia began to doubt her own sanity. They didn't know that days earlier, at Emily's request, Nolan had forged a perfect duplicate, and Emily had swapped the photo during a delivery. Seeing Amanda off, Emily felt she'd finally sealed the biggest leak in her revenge plan. But Amanda didn't leave, she came back. Emily's next target, the journalist-turned-author who had put her behind bars. Back then, while David was framed and imprisoned, young Emily played innocent to survive. A minor reporter posed as a crusader for justice, won her trust, then stole key evidence, only to sell it to Victoria for profit. Emily later read his book and realized she'd been betrayed. Emily approached him as a fan. With Nolan, she visited the author's office as investors. There, she found shelves of David's tapes. Proudly, the author said they were David's interview materials, the backbone of his book. Learning he wanted to re-interview Amanda, Emily set a trap. She had Amanda agree to a public interview, while Emily and Nolan hid nearby, feeding answers via earpiece. Cornered by precise answers, the author fell silent. Emily cued Amanda to go on the offensive. Tomorrow's book launch is your last chance to make this right. Use it. They left with no room for rebuttal. Shaken, the author resolved to reveal the truth at the launch. But the next morning, Victoria visited first. He confessed. Amanda has discovered your connection to her father. If she keeps digging and exposes everything, I'll be the biggest fraud in literary history. From her seat in the audience, Emily watched the author freeze in fear, refusing to reveal the truth. Furious, she made a decision. She told Nolan to invite the author to dinner. And when one of Forbes' top 10 billionaires sends an invitation, it's impossible to say no. While they were gone, Emily slipped into his office, smashed open the cabinet, took all the videotapes, and set the room ablaze with a cigarette. By the time the men returned, the entire office was ashes. All the drafts and recordings, gone. The author collapsed in despair, crying on the floor, while Nolan smiled triumphantly behind him. Back home, Emily rewatched her father's tapes, and uncovered a shocking truth. Victoria's youngest daughter was her biological sister. The Grayson family had destroyed her father's life. From the beginning, Emily's revenge plan included seducing Daniel, Victoria's eldest son. After months of careful plotting, she became Daniel's fiancé, infiltrating the Grayson inner circle. Now, with this secret, she wondered how to turn it to her advantage. That morning, Conrad and Daniel were having breakfast when a stranger handed Conrad a USB drive and a note. Moments later, Conrad took his lawyer and filed for divorce. Victoria was stunned. Conrad played a video. A man revealed his affair with Victoria, hinting that Conrad's daughter might not be his. Conrad said coldly, "I'll order a DNA test. If it's true, you'll leave with nothing." He secretly took a strand of their daughter's hair. Meanwhile, Victoria turned to her personal lawyer to handle the divorce and trace the video's source. The footage was supposed to have been destroyed in the fire. If it resurfaced now, only one person could be behind it, Amanda. Victoria invited Amanda for tea, while her men dug into her background. During their meeting, Victoria grew suspicious. The real Amanda had a strawberry allergy, yet this woman ate berries freely. Victoria questioned her about the tape. Amanda acted clueless, claiming she knew nothing. But the more she denied it, the more Victoria was convinced she was guilty. That night, Victoria's agent broke into Amanda's room and found the remaining tapes in her bag. Seeing disaster looming, Emily confronted Amanda, revealing the Graysons' betrayal of her family. Terrified, Amanda decided to flee to Paris immediately. Watching her time bomb, the real Amanda, finally leave, Emily breathed a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, the DNA results came back. The daughter had no blood relation to Conrad. Victoria wasn't surprised. Instead, she quietly took the spoon Amanda used and ordered another DNA test, this time comparing it to her daughter's. The result was stunning. Amanda's DNA matched perfectly. Victoria finally believed Amanda was her lost child. But that was impossible, the real Amanda was Emily. How could the DNA match? The answer came soon after. Late that night, Emily met a man beneath a bridge, Victoria's lawyer. He was the one who switched the DNA samples, protecting Emily's cover. He was also one of the few men her father had trusted, mentioned in his final letter. Every move had been part of Emily's plan. She had sent the USB to Conrad, sparking the Graysons' divorce. She had planted the tapes in Amanda's room, drawing Victoria's suspicion and forcing Amanda to run. A single masterstroke, removing 2 hidden threats from her path of revenge. What Emily didn't know was that one videotape had been left behind in Amanda's room. The next morning, Porter, the bar owner, found it while cleaning. He called Amanda to return and pick it up, but she never answered, because Emily had taken full control of Amanda's phone. Every call and message went straight to Emily. When Emily learned about the missing tape, she sent Nolan to retrieve it. But Porter was cautious. Though Nolan couldn't take it, he spotted the label, Tape No. 14. That number made Emily's heart skip, the content inside could ruin everything. Nolan tried another approach. He used a magnetic eraser to secretly wipe the data. But a few days later, Porter showed up, asking to watch the tape. Believing it was blank, Nolan agreed. To his horror, the footage played perfectly. After watching, Porter exploded in rage and stormed to the Grayson mansion. That night, the engagement party of Emily and Daniel was in full swing. Even Edward Grayson, the patriarch, had made a rare appearance. Just as guests toasted and laughed, Porter burst in, furious, pointing at Victoria. He shouted that she'd loved David, abandoned Amanda, and even had another child with him. Then he held up the videotape as proof. The room fell silent. Victoria froze in shock. Edward demanded an explanation. Daniel rushed to defend her. My mother was forced by David. Conrad countered angrily. That's not how I remember it. Stop lying, Victoria. Victoria snapped, warning Conrad to shut up. Daniel misread her reaction. You're right, mother. My sister shouldn't be dragged into this. Every eye turned toward the Grayson daughter. Under pressure, Conrad finally admitted. David was her real father. The girl, horrified that her biological father was a convicted terrorist, ran out crying. The family broke apart, and Emily smiled. Her plan hadn't even begun, yet Porter had done the work for her. Edward pulled Conrad aside, furious. No father humiliates his family like this. He stripped Conrad of his heir status and declared Daniel his successor. Hidden in the shadows, Victoria overheard, and the grief on her face turned into a triumphant smile. Watching the Graysons collapse, Emily called Nolan, sighing. Your gadget's useless. But when she got home, her smile vanished. The rug was lifted, the wooden box, gone. All that remained was an invitation card that read, Dear Emily Thorne. Her blood ran cold. Moments later, a call came in. A voice said, I have the box, and Amanda. Emily recognized the voice, Tyler, Daniel's classmate. He demanded, $5 million, tomorrow, parking lot, money for the girl. The next day, Emily arrived late on purpose. Before Tyler could call, a gun pressed against his head. It was Emily. She tied him to the fence, found her father's keepsake box in his trunk, and demanded, Where's Amanda? Then suddenly, another gun aimed at her. Amanda. Why are you doing this? Emily asked. Amanda didn't answer, she simply freed Tyler and took the money. Watching them leave, Emily stood in silence, shaken. When Nolan heard the box was gone, he panicked. Run, Emily, if that box gets out, your secret's dead, and so are you. But Emily, fueled by vengeance, ignored the warning. She called Daniel, and learned he was meeting a Japanese businessman named Takeda. At the sound of that name, Emily smiled faintly. No one else knew Takeda was her mentor. The night of the party arrived. To keep Tyler from causing chaos, Emily was fully prepared for a confrontation. Victoria met with Daniel, hoping to reconcile. But he told her he planned to leave the Hamptons and move to Paris with Emily. Victoria insisted, she'll never go. Daniel didn't believe her and rushed to confront Emily. But how could someone driven by vengeance ever walk away? Her answer confirmed his mother's suspicion. To Daniel, Emily now seemed ambitious and manipulative, with love for money, not him. Crushed, he walked away. Before Emily could follow, Takeda appeared, her mentor. He handed her a rectangular box, saying, "I've recovered your father's box." He added, "To get your plan back on track, I've already handled part of your problem. Keep your father's secret safe. When I return, I'll tell you why." Soon, the engagement party began. Victoria called Daniel to the stage, no reply. Then came a scream from outside. Her daughter shouted, "Mom, it's Daniel, something's wrong." Everyone rushed to the beach. Emily's face went pale, hurting Daniel was never part of her plan. She and Victoria ran to the scene. A man in a white suit lay motionless on the sand. Victoria fell to her knees, sobbing, and turned him over. It wasn't Daniel. It was Tyler. The crowd gasped in shock. Then, from behind a dune, Daniel emerged, covered in blood. Seeing him, Victoria feared the worst. She thought he killed Tyler. Holding her son, she whispered, "Don't admit to anything." Police flooded the scene. Everyone, including Victoria, was taken in for questioning. Witnesses claimed they saw a figure in a gray hoodie fleeing the area. That night, Declan, Porter's younger brother, came home trembling. He'd seen the man's face. When Jack arrived, Declan showed him a blood-stained gray hoodie he'd found. Jack's expression turned grim. He knew. With the evidence at hand, Daniel became the prime suspect. Because of his prior record, the judge ordered him held without bail in a maximum security prison. The Graysons hired the best lawyer in America to defend him. Through investigation, the lawyer found two witnesses: Daniel's sister and Declan Porter. Both described a hooded figure running away. But the surveillance cameras had been hacked, looping the first 3 minutes of the party. Clearly, this was a premeditated setup. Still, neither witness could tell if the suspect was male or female. For Victoria and Conrad, that didn't matter. Just like years ago when they framed Emily's father. They now planned to sacrifice Amanda as the scapegoat. The lawyer warned, one suspect won't hold up in court. So the Graysons set their sights on Jack Porter, a respected local, difficult to discredit. They needed a public voice to sway opinion. Emily stepped in, suggesting the author whose office had burned down, promising to handle him herself. The author, drowning in alcohol, sobered up at the offer. "If this helps reveal the truth, I'll do whatever it takes." With Amanda missing, he went to Jack for answers, but was thrown out. As he left, Declan ran after him, saying, "It was too dark, I didn't see anyone clearly." And Daniel's sister was high. What she saw might have been a hallucination. Armed with that headline-worthy revelation, the author returned home, ready to publish the story by morning. Suddenly, an anonymous message popped up on the author's computer screen. "I know who burned down your house." He assumed it was Amanda, the missing girl, and asked where she was. But the sender didn't reply. Instead, they told him to check his desk drawer. Inside, he found his old videotapes, the ones he thought were gone. In that instant, he realized Victoria was behind the fire. Meanwhile, Victoria met with her lawyer, desperate to bail Daniel out. After all, her wealthy son wasn't built for life behind bars. The lawyer said there were only two options: find a new suspect, or create a life-threatening incident in prison. Out of options, Victoria chose the second. She bribed a guard to make it happen. Soon after, Daniel was brutally beaten in the shower. It worked. The judge approved his release on bail. But their relief was short-lived. The lawyer returned with bad news. Daniel might go back to prison. The author had published a story exposing that Daniel's sister used hallucinogenic drugs the night of the murder. The revelation destroyed her credibility and shattered the Grayson family's image. Furious, Victoria confronted the author, demanding he retract and apologize. But he'd already decided she was guilty. "I'm done working for your family," he said coldly. The Grayson empire is about to crumble. Victoria was helpless. With witnesses discredited and no new evidence, Daniel's conviction seemed inevitable. In desperation, she came up with a twisted idea. She would convince Daniel to frame Emily, making her the prime suspect. After all, the gun that killed Tyler belonged to Emily. At that moment, Emily disguised herself as a glamorous woman and met with Victoria's associate at a bar. A few days earlier, she'd learned Victoria planned to pin everything on Jack Porter. Originally, Emily intended to stay out of it, but not anymore. She asked Nolan to persuade Jack to leave town. During their talk, Nolan uncovered a shocking truth: Jack had been at the crime scene, and he possessed a key piece of evidence. The gray hoodie stained with the victim's blood. Emily told Nolan to get Jack out while she sneaked into his house, where she found the hoodie and staged a fake break-in. But when she returned home, she froze. Daniel, who was forbidden to leave home, was waiting for her. "Where were you, Emily?" He noticed her sneaking out, called dozens of times, and, worried sick, violated his court order to find her. Before she could explain, police arrived, arresting Daniel for leaving confinement. If convicted, his sentence would double. Just as Daniel's trial was about to begin, Victoria's associate was arrested. In the back seat of his car, the gray hoodie, still stained with blood. He was immediately declared the main suspect. When the lawyer came to question him, he was already dead, leaving behind a confession letter admitting to everything. Under Victoria's heavy financial persuasion, Daniel was cleared of all charges and released. Emily was stunned. The hoodie had been her plant, but the man's sudden death wasn't part of her plan. She checked the Grayson home surveillance recordings and uncovered the truth. After his arrest, the man had called Victoria, threatening, "If you don't get me out, I'll expose everything your family's ever done." When Conrad learned of the threat, he called in someone from the shadows. Soon after, the man was found dead in prison. And from that recording, Emily realized another horror: her father's death wasn't what it seemed. The killer had disappeared the very next day. Inside Charlotte Grayson's room, Emily spotted a photo of her father taken before his death. In it, he was holding a notebook, something she had never received among his personal effects. Suspecting a cover-up, Emily contacted Nolan. But once Nolan realized what she was looking for, he rushed to hide the notebook, only to be caught red-handed when Emily arrived early. Studying the journal, Emily found a mysterious set of initials, CM. Her research showed that a woman with that alias had died of illness the same year her father was killed. But records from another hospital revealed a woman with identical details still alive. Determined not to miss any lead, Emily went to find her, and was stunned to see a photo of Nolan and the woman hanging on the wall. That's when she learned the truth: CM had raised Nolan and he'd hidden the notebook to protect her. Years ago, CM had been the Grayson family's private accountant. She discovered the Graysons' plan to frame David Clark, but before she could warn him, David was murdered. At the same time, Grayson Global was suddenly raided by police, and even Conrad became a target of investigation. Exhausted, Conrad returned home to find Daniel waiting. Daniel demanded the truth: "Did you order that man's death?" At first, Conrad stayed silent, but wanting to ease the tension, he confessed everything: how they set up David Clark and the family's darkest secrets. Neither realized that Emily was listening in. She had believed Daniel was different from his corrupt family, until the next day's press conference, when Daniel lied through his teeth, blaming everything on the dead associate. Any feelings she had for him died that day. She added Daniel Grayson to her list of targets, and swore to destroy the entire Grayson empire. While rewatching Conrad's interview, Emily noticed an old man with silver hair appear briefly at the end, the same face as a prison guard murdered alongside her father. She was certain he was connected to her father's death. That day, as Emily monitored Conrad's office, the silver-haired man appeared again. To bait Conrad, Emily sent him a video, the one of her and Daniel in bed together. Conrad assumed the man was spying on and blackmailing him, and furiously arranged a meeting. Emily got the address, ready to tail them, but Daniel and his friend showed up unexpectedly to discuss wedding plans. Unable to leave, she asked Nolan to follow instead. Nolan quickly found the location of the meeting. Emily sent Daniel away, geared up, and headed out. She arrived, unscrewed a porch light, ready to break in, when a woman called out behind her. That's when she realized Nolan had given her the wrong address. Meanwhile, Nolan, at the real location, hacked the neighborhood's power grid, posing as an electrician to plant a hidden camera inside the silver-haired man's apartment. Elsewhere, Victoria met with the police chief, demanding, "Why hasn't Conrad been arrested yet?" It turned out she was the one who tipped off the authorities about Grayson Global, but the chief replied, "There isn't enough evidence." Victoria countered, "Grant me immunity, and I'll bring you proof that Conrad's tied to terrorists." After securing the deal, she went to Conrad's secret apartment. On the wall hung a painting she'd given him decades ago. It was a replica, yet he'd kept it for nearly 20 years. Sensing something off, she cut the canvas open, and found a stash of incriminating documents hidden inside. When she returned home, Conrad was waiting. He warned, "Hand it over, Victoria, if you don't, we're all dead." But she refused. Daniel exploded, shouting, "Dad may be a bastard, but at least he does it for the family. You're nothing." Shattered by her son's words, Victoria handed all the evidence to Daniel, a test of where his loyalty truly lay. He took the briefcase and immediately called Conrad. Betrayed by her own child, Victoria left in despair. Meanwhile, Nolan, who had planted a camera in the silver-haired man's apartment, kept checking the feed until he noticed the timestamps didn't match real time. Before he could react, the silver-haired man appeared behind him, knocked him out, and abducted him. He'd spotted Nolan's camera from the start, and wanted the mastermind behind it. Daniel then brought the briefcase to Emily's house, placing it downstairs where she could see it. At dawn, Emily screamed. Daniel rushed down to find the first floor ransacked. Emily said the silver-haired man had stolen the case. Daniel knew exactly who she meant, and told Conrad. Conrad, furious at losing leverage, deployed private security to sweep the mansion. Once Daniel left, Emily retrieved the hidden case and tried to open it. The files were encrypted. She called Nolan, no answer. At his place, his computer was on. Across town, Nolan was tied up by the silver-haired man. The man demanded the evidence and asked who Emily really was. Emily insisted on a face-to-face, telling him, "We share a blood debt, you killed my father." He paused. Emily showed up at the meeting point. Because Nolan's life depended on it, she sedated herself to avoid suspicion. When she woke, she was in the man's secret compound. Under interrogation, Emily fed him a false address to send him away. The moment he left, she picked her cuffs with a tool hidden in her sleeve, freed Nolan, and armed herself with an axe. The silver-haired man, realizing he'd been tricked, raced back. As he entered, Emily struck. Despite his training, he couldn't match her, and she took him down. But at the brink of choking him out, Emily let go and spared his life. Back home, Daniel exploded, tired of Emily's disappearances. Exhausted, she returned the engagement ring. They split. Later, Nolan quietly stashed the incriminating files into the police chief's trunk. With real evidence in hand, the chief rerouted the case, putting Victoria, ready to testify in court, on a private jet to New York. Conrad begged, "Don't go. If you board that plane, you'll die." Victoria scoffed and stepped aboard, dreaming of a clean slate. She didn't see the silver-haired man near the tarmac, tinkering briefly before walking away. Minutes after takeoff, the plane exploded and crashed. No survivors. As Emily toasted her victory, the breaking news flashed. She collapsed into despair. Was revenge over? Then Nolan arrived, grave and steady. "I cloned the files before decrypting them. And they reveal more than the Graysons or David's murder. There's something about you. Your mother, believed dead nearly 20 years, is alive." Emily whispered, "Did they kill my mother too?" Nolan shook his head. "No, I mean she's alive." That's season 1 of Revenge in full. Did you like it? Rate it out of 10 in the comments. Thanks for watching, see you next time.
After the grace. This.
How can you be so sure?